One. Hey y'all, what is going on? What is going on? It's your girl, Melba Pearson, Melba from Miami, Melba for Justice, also known as the resident legal diva. And it is time for another Mondays with Melba. Y'all, we about to get lit today because we're going to take on a topic that can be controversial for some folks, but I find it super important for us to talk about different sides of the issue and consider some things that, maybe we never really thought about or talked about before. But before I do that, I need to center two things. First off, June 12th, which was yesterday, is Loving Day, which is a very important day for me interracial marriage. This is the case of Loving versus Virginia that struck down the laws that said if you are of different races, you could not get married. So this happened in 1967. So June 12th is always known as Loving Day. So, shout out to the Lovings who, they made history and made me be able to be with the love of my life. So I always have to center that. But I also have to center the fact that June 12th is the anniversary of the Pulse Massacre. 49 people who were just up in a club, living their life, trying to enjoy themselves, were slaughtered, murdered by an individual. So we have to always remember, honor, and center their memories and their spirits, and know that, again, love is love. It is not lost on me that on Loving Day, people were killed for who they love because of the fact that they were part of the LGBTQ community. And to compound that, which we'll get into the discussion today as I bring in our amazing special guest, in Idaho, which we all know that I spend a lot of time there because of the fact that, my father-in-law, resides there and my husband's family's there. There's supposed to be a pride march on that Sunday, and 31 people were arrested for trying to roll up on the parade and create an incident. They had flown in from or come from at least 10 different states, and they were part of the Patriot Front, which is a hate group. They are a white extremist group that views anybody who is a person of color, anyone who is of the LGBTQ community, anybody who's not like white, Aryan, like whatever, they consider them an enemy, and they use force and violence to do so. It was only because of a concerned citizen, a random person was like, these people moving real weird. And don't get twisted in Idaho now. Everybody carrying. So it's not like that. But they were like, they're moving weird. And they were like in camouflage gear and they just saw too many signs that were problematic. They called the police, and luckily law enforcement was able to take them into custody and charge them with a misdemeanor for basically trying to start a riot. But that's not the end of the story, because the FBI is like, hold up, I got something for you. You don't cross state lines to come do hate crimes like that. Like we're not right. So, I'm just glad that a tragedy was averted. I'm glad that somebody was observant and saw what time it was. But that, of course, leads us into today's discussion about firearm ownership. So with that, I have our amazing guest, Luanda Hart-Rodríguez of Blue Tactical, who I will say, in full disclosure, not only is she my friend, not only is she my forever woman crush Wednesday, but she is my firearms instructor. So she trying to fix my sweaty palms.
We got you. You good, because we all gonna have sweaty palms at some point with dealing with firearms, right?
Listen, I mean, it is not the easiest journey, but it has been worthwhile. And I thank you for you opening my eyes on so many ways and teaching me so many things. But let's get into the discussion. Lou, first of all, welcome to Mondays with Melba. Tell the people what you're about and what you do.
So I'm Lou, with Lou Tactical. My full name is Luanda, but I go by Lou. I'm a firearms instructor. I am a self-defense advocate, and I bring to it is not only just about firearms, because I do understand not every state can carry a firearm, but self-defense for me comes from being physically and mentally and spiritually protected, and just making sure that we're keeping ourselves grounded in situational awareness and everything that has to deal with firearms, but everything also around firearms to keep ourselves safe. So that's what I do.
and you do it well. So, one of the things I'm noticing is that, and I've read this in several different articles, that Black women are now the fastest growing group of new gun owners in this country. What are your thoughts, not only just looking at that, but in the response to like Buffalo and Uvalde and all of these horrible things happening around the country? There's this movement like, listen, we should arm ourselves, right?
Yeah, you have to be in the mind state that you are your own first responder. And the reality is that's what it is. That's the reality of it. And what happened in Buffalo lets us know, not only women, but everyone lets us know that at any given moment, we can be struck with uh, a certain evilness that can just occur out of nowhere, and we have to be prepared for anything. We can never say, oh, it won't happen to us. You're talking about a supermarket, so it just puts everyone in the mind state that, okay, you know what, maybe I do need to put something in place to be able to protect myself and not put my soul, the life into someone else's hands. So,
Yeah.
and with women, yeah, we are definitely, you could see it, and I think with women being looked at society wise as more vulnerable when it comes to protection, being the number one, demographic that's purchasing firearms the most says a lot. It's actually way more powerful than the numbers show.
Wow. Wow. So, okay, so I have two places I want to go with this. Number one, what are some things that a person, whether it be a woman, man, whatever you are, however you identify, what are some things to consider if you are, trying to debate whether or not you should get a firearm?
There's nothing okay. The only thing you should consider is if you are mentally capable. That's a real question to even carry a firearm. You have to ask yourself, yourself. So are you mentally prepared and capable to even start that journey to learn and to carry a firearm? Other than that, if it's not a state law that's preventing you from purchasing or carrying a firearm, then that's the only downfall I can see someone having. If it's fear, you can work through that. If it's trauma, you can work through that. Hopefully you can get with someone that can help you work through.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely the trauma aspect is real, and the mental aspect is definitely real because, as we saw in the Kyle Rittenhouse case, and he was the white man that crossed state lines to go to a Black Lives Matter protest and basically ended up killing folks. But the one thing is that there was an EMS guy that responded, and he saw that, okay, there's a problem here. Here's a guy with an AR-15, and he pulled his gun but didn't fire. And so Kyle Rittenhouse then turned around, shot him in the arm. He was able to survive and testify at trial. But that's the danger of, like, you don't just pull it to be like, see, look, I got a gun.
Right.
Like, this is not a game. Y'all. You pull it. If you're not at the range training, if you pull your gun in a real situation, you have to be prepared to pull the trigger. And I'm not gonna lie, it's taken me a minute to get there. But
because how do you mentally prepare for that? Flight, what is it called? A fight or flight takes place. And when and I've never been, thankfully, in that position. I have actually, and that's what kind of started my journey. But if you're faced with something to where it's so traumatic and your body shuts down, you have your training. That's where your training has to take over. You have to trust yourself. You have to be so confident in yourself that your training takes over, almost kind of like you black out and your training just takes over from there. Everything that you train with is, my bet is, everything how you train is not going to be 100%, on how you engage into saving, your life or eliminating a threat. But it's going to be enough for you to be able to follow through. You know what I mean?
Right.
And training is more than just taking your gun out and shooting at a target. firearm training is mental, it's physical, it's all of the above. Training is levels to it. It's not just, what, I'm gonna go to the range and I'm gonna just shoot at a couple of targets. It's so much more behind it to prepare you, for if a situation like that occurs.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So the other place I want to go with this is that because I'm ready for it to let's get in, let's get it in,
Let's
right?
do it.
So you've said this before the last time you were on, and I've done some reading since then, and it's a very widespread opinion, more so than I thought, and it kind of shocked me the first time you said it, and I was like, "Ooh," I had to sit with it for a minute, right? You had stated that all gun control is racist.
Absolutely.
And I had to sit with that for a minute. I ain't gonna front. I had to sit with that because I was like, so can you break down for me why you think that is? And then I want to jump in with some research that I did that actually supports that. Shocking.
Okay. Well, so when you're talking about controlling someone with a firearm, you're really pretty much saying, okay, gun control is controlling legal citizens from being able to carry or hold certain types of firearms, right? A lot of times, the people that fall into the laws that it affects are normally are Black people, or people of color. You know what I mean? It's just how it's set up. So it kind of puts us at a disadvantage with any type of gun control, and it kind of leaves us vulnerable. It leaves us without the protection that we need to protect ourselves. So it's so hard to go down that. Well, no, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but when you talk about control, right, the gun control, you say, okay, I would either want someone to give up their guns or to turn in their guns, but the bad guys are always going to be able to carry a firearm, and bad guys can come with those type of sirens you hear right now. So it's kind of like we have to be in a position to where we're able to protect ourselves, and we're able to stomp with the big dogs who also have firearms. So it's all racist. It's just all racist. It's gonna gear the people that it affects the most are us. It's no way to sugarcoat it.
So let me actually throw some facts behind that, right? Because you said that, and I had to sit with it because, again, full disclosure, I did Lou and I both kind of come from the same background of, growing up in urban environments. Guns were not something we grew up around. It's like, listen, I grew up in, we both grew up in New York. You call now.
It's funny because I used to say I didn't grow up around guns, but I did. I just didn't grow up around guns in a positive light. You know what I mean?
Yes, yes.
Sit with that. Like, wait a minute. Okay, I didn't grow up with guns per se at a legal point, but I grew up with it in a negative light, and that's the trauma behind it all for some.
Exactly. Because it's like, you're in an urban environment, you're hearing about shootings and the dope boys on the corner and that sort of thing. And it's like you associated guns with, murder and negativity and horrible things. And rightfully so, because in those contexts, that's, how it was used. But it wasn't really thought of as something for Black people for self-defense.
Right.
But let me put some history on it. So first off, ever wonder why California has some of the strictest gun laws in the country? It started with what was called the Mulford Act in 1967. And that was a law in California that prohibited the public carrying of loaded firearms without a permit. It was named after a Republican assemblyman, Don Mulford, and it was signed into law by then Governor Ronald Reagan. And the whole intention was to disarm members of the Black Panther Party because they were conducting armed patrols of their neighborhoods, like in Oakland and all of that, because of police brutality.
Right. I did hear about that. I did read a little snippets here and there about that.
I mean, it is some craziness. And what was interesting, both Republicans and Democrats supported that bill in 1967, as well as the National Rifle Association. Now, why would the NRA support the taking away the ability of people to be able to carry loaded firearms in public without a permit.
And that's the $1,000,000 question.
So,
And it still it rebirths. It just rebirths on a different type of angle. It comes behind the back door. It finds different doors to come at to disguise itself as we're trying to protect you. We're trying to help you.
exactly. So, there's that aspect, but then there's also, let's go all the way back to like right after the Revolutionary War. I mean, we're going all the way back, like, 1776 type stuff. The first laws regulating gun ownership were aimed squarely at people of color and indigenous people. So in Massachusetts and the Plymouth colonies, it was illegal for a colonist to sell a gun to someone who was indigenous. And in Virginia and Tennessee, it completely banned Black people from owning guns, even if they were free. So we're not talking like, oh, you're enslaved, etc. No, you're a free Black person living in Virginia or Tennessee, and you could not own a gun.
Right.
Fast forwarding to the Dred Scott decision, that whole 1/8 of a man, if you have a drop of Black blood, that makes you Black, therefore we can discriminate against you.
It does.
The Chief Justice of the United States at the time, his name was Roger Taney. He wrote in the Dred Scott decision one little line that we
You better learn the people.
One little line that we skip over. One little line that says, if Blacks were permitted to become citizens, they, like whites, would have the full liberty to keep and carry arms wherever they wanted. And so then you come now to after the Civil War, Reconstruction, and the beginning of the Black codes. If you watch the movie 13th, and they talked about how, they try to get cute now, oh, wait, we can't legally enslave you, but we can use the criminal justice system to do so.
Systematic.
They started enacting Black codes to prohibit the ownership of guns by Black people. And so I'm going to quote Ida B. Wells, the great writer and thinker and abolitionist and everything from back in the day. She said in 1892, the only times an Afro-American who was assaulted got away has been because he had a gun and used it in self-defense.
Right.
She further said, a Winchester rifle should have a place of honor in every Black home.
Every Black home.
It should be used for that protection, which the law refuses to give.
And it has to be tiring. Like it's exhausting uncoding all of these different little, snippets and codes and laws that they throw in there to try to enable us from, to prevent us from carrying firearms. It's exhausting, and it's like, when does it stop? And right now, the temperature in this country now, it's like clear that you can see that we're not the problem, when it comes with firearms. I mean, I know we can take that all different kind of ways. People want to come in like, oh, what about this? What about that? But no, really, we are not the problem, but we're the problem. So.
Right. And I mean, and then going further in history, Dr. Martin Luther King, who had his house threatened, they firebombed his house. They called him up saying, we're going to kill your kids. We're going to rape your wife, all of that. They denied him a gun permit.
Right.
Yes, he did preach on that. But at the same token, he was wanting to protect his home, his wife, his kids, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's supposed to be sacred, right? He was denied a permit. And so, interestingly enough, I had a discussion with my husband, and I see Betsy. Hey, Betsy, good to see you. I'm going to put this question up here because this is going to go directly to this statement. My husband says to me, he's like, I was reading this article because, he was tired. He got time on his hands, bless him. I'm a little jealous. I'm not going to lie. Anyway, so he was reading this article, and he was saying that apparently in states like Florida, Georgia, and some other places, it's harder for a Black person to get a concealed weapons permit, even though they meet the qualifications. So, you know, you don't have a criminal record, you know, there's no, nobody has ever deemed you psychologically unfit
Right.
to be able to cover all this stuff. You've got clean prints, you did everything on the application, and somehow
It's
your,
denied.
your application gets denied. So he's like, he's on that whole tip of like, well, listen, then there should be no, like, everybody should be able to open carry.
Yes.
Because in that way, number one, you know what time it is. So you not the his viewpoint is that the only people who should be able to conceal weapons are law enforcement for obvious reasons. But
Right.
for everyone else, they should be able to open carry. So number one, you know what time it is. Number two, nobody can discriminate against you because at the end of the day, as long as you pass the background check,
Right.
you know, and everything else, then you should be able to purchase a weapon just like anyone else. Of course, there is the question of, you know, sort of like you go get your license and, you know, first of all, you want to go buy a car, but you got to have a license first, right? So there's a question of how do we moderate to make sure that people are actually getting some kind of training and learning how to use the weapon properly and not, you know how to store it and all of that.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that? And tying into Betsy's question, what are your thoughts on the permitless carry that Governor DeSantis is, you know, discussing that is going to be his legacy next session?
Right. Okay. So for one, I have honestly never experienced a person of color just being denied, with a clean background, with just being denied. I have never experienced that. I have never had any of my students come back and say that they did not. And my students of colors come back and say that they did not get, they didn't get accepted for the concealed carry. However, I have a childhood friend of mine who lives in Georgia. He has a nonviolent crime from years ago. I mean, we're talking over 20 years ago, right? So nonviolent crime, he reached out to me and he asked me, to give him a letter of recommendation, which I did. I know him, I know his character, working man, husband, wife, kids, like great guy. And they called me, they did the interview, everything seemed like it was going well, and they just totally denied him. No reason for it at all. Told him I think he can try back in some years. It was like a few years, and I was kind of blown away because it was like, why? It wasn't a nonviolent crime. It wasn't something that's like, you have to be scared of. And it was disappointing because you need to be able to protect your family, especially as a man. You want to feel like, you have everything in place to protect your home. So that's the only incident that I can recall that was a little iffy. That was a little, iffy. As far as the permitless carry, right now in Florida, our qualifications to give a concealed carry permit sucks. So you have to be an instructor that's willing to go over and beyond to teach people to go out and carry. And I bring more to my classes so they can be a little more prepared, to go out and purchase a firearm. But it really makes no difference if it's if you have to have a concealed carry license or not. To me, if you don't have to have one, people have to train anyway. So I look at it like this: you get your concealed carry, which is very minimal. You go into a class, couple of hours, they get you out. You have your permits. Easiest thing. In some states, it takes hours. The class takes hours. Here, it's not like that. So it's like they're not going to. A lot of times, they don't come back to train anyway. I have students that they get their permit. I don't see them ever again. Because to them that permit means, okay, I'm good now. I'm good. I'm trained. And the permit does not mean that. That permit, literally, I know in the state of Florida, that permit is just what it is. It's a permit that allows you to carry outside of your home and outside of your vehicle. So I don't see a problem, honestly, with it. Now, as far as open carry, I wouldn't recommend it. I wouldn't open carry. Even if our state went open carry, I would not open carry. But I don't see a problem with the permitless carry at all. Now, background checks and all of that, yes, but it really doesn't. Texas did it, and I figured Florida would follow suit soon. So it's something I've been preparing for.
in your mind, what's the difference between open carry and permitless carry?
So, well, open carry, open carry. If you don't have to have a permit, you could just have a firearm. You know, that's just it. You carry a firearm, and you don't have to have a permit that says you can or you cannot. You just can, unless, of course, your background comes back, funky. But even so, even so, let's play devil's advocate. If you walk into a gun shop to purchase a firearm, you have to fill out the paperwork to run your background. Purchase a firearm from dude across the street and fill out a bill of sale, and now you have a firearm and no one even knows your background. So it's so many gray areas when it comes to firearms in the hands that they get into. But a firearm is going to land into the hands of a criminal any day of the week, no matter what laws you have in place, no matter if you have permitless carry, it doesn't matter. A criminal is going to get a firearm.
And it's usually, former prosecutor, and it's usually a communal gun, right? Yes. Because there'll be like one gun that, and I don't like using this term, but this is the term that is used often in law enforcement and in those circles, that one gun will have several bodies on it. In other words, that gun has been used in several homicides.
Yes. So, it's not like it's something that's going to deter the criminals away.
Right. Exactly. And so to answer Betsy's other question, she's saying, do they ask your race when you apply? Well, you have to submit a picture to be able to get your concealed carry permit. So
yeah, but a picture doesn't have to necessarily say, I'll tell them I'm white in heartbeat. I'll say all surprise. Unless it has other, because I'm good for putting human. If it has other, I am so good for, I will always check that human box just to, because I don't like to, I'm so paranoid with being, I guess, grouped up into certain areas. Okay, how many people over here are Black and have firearms? Because that's what they do. They use these polls to see how many people in the area are of a certain demographic that carry firearms. So, I'm just one little person, but when it comes to filling out my race with certain things, I do it with some forms, but a lot of forms, I'm like human, other. Yeah, I'll be Caucasian. My people, like, they'll look at my photo and look at me like, wait a minute. I'll be like,
okay, hi.
So it's not against the law.
Right? So, so to pivot back to, so today it was announced that the Senate may have a deal around some gun changes to the gun laws. And some of the things that it includes is, deeper background checks for juveniles. It includes more money for mental health, which I'm always like, more money for mental health is always good, period. But I'm going to pivot and come back. Okay. I have a beef with that because of the fact that many times they try to paint these mass shooters as mentally ill. That's not the case, right? There are millions of Americans in this country that have schizophrenia, that are bipolar, that have depression. They get up every day, they take their meds, and they go to work. They don't pick up a gun and kill people, right? It was absolutely.
And they don't plan it out. They don't get online before and talk about it. And that's not mental illness. It's pure evil.
Exactly. So while I support, mental health generally anyway, because again, that is one of the biggest crises I believe in this country, and there's so many stressors and all of that, and you can prevent someone from escalating to that point. I hesitate to say, mental health treatment will end mass shootings, because that alone won't do it.
It won't. Mass shootings are fueled by hate, and you cannot. No type of therapy is going to get rid of that. If you hate people or hate yourself so much, that you want to, take the lives of other people, it's the only thing that's going to stop a mass shooter is a gun. And that's just the reality of it.
Yeah. So then also the another two parts of that, and then I just kind of want to get your thoughts on that generally, is strengthening of the red flag laws. So meaning, for those who don't know, red flag laws means that either a family member, friend, somebody is seeing that, ooh, you're not acting right. Something's a bit off. And so they go and basically report you, and a judge has a hearing, and then basically your guns are taken away from you for a specific period of time because you are deemed to be a danger to yourself or others. And that could come in the form of, for instance, that came into play here in Florida after the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas shooting, where Nicholas Cruz, the shooter in that case, had a long history of mental illness. Everybody knew he kept falling through the cracks, but yet was still able to buy a firearm and then go, conduct the shooting. And then another aspect of it is also strengthening the domestic violence aspect of it. So if you have a restraining order against you or you have a history of domestic violence, then you are less likely to be able to get a firearm. So, again, this is this falls much less, or my brain is like fried at the moment. One moment, I'll be right back. Okay. It falls far short of what the Democrats in the House wanted, but this was a compromise in the Senate, which again still has not passed. This is just a discussion at this point. Mm-hmm. So how do any of those things land on you? What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, it's another rabbit hole. Okay, so I don't know the numbers, right? But I'm going to just say, I don't know how many people have domestic violence disputes, but I know probably in certain type of communities, domestic violence is high, and it can be a real serious case, or it can be a case of a man or a woman being upset and calling the police and saying, something so minor, and then now they're slapped with a restraining order or I've seen it, and now they're strapped with the domestic violence, something on their record, and now they can't get a firearm when that was just really honestly bogus. Like it was just total dramatics. From someone that just didn't get their way. So they did that. Right. So it's like, I don't know. I don't know. That's just something about it doesn't really sit right with me. Of course, if it's domestic violence, if it's somebody threatening to kill you and things like, because that happens, then of course, they should not have a firearm. Are they going to be able to get one? Will it really honestly stop a person? I really just don't think so. If someone wants to kill you, they're gonna try and do just that. The only way they're not going to do that if they feel you're not vulnerable and that it's a possibility that you're gonna shoot their ass back. It's just ugh. So it's like when it comes to those type of laws, I really don't know who it targets. I guess I know who it targets, who I feel like it still targets inner city communities.
And interestingly enough, there was a Supreme Court case, as one of the last opinions by Justice Antonin Scalia before he passed away. The name of it, I believe it's McLaughlin versus Otis, or Otis McLaughlin. I don't remember the exact name, but this was a case, I believe, out of Chicago. It was either Chicago or New York, where a gentleman, an older African-American gentleman, maybe about 76 years old, there was a lot of crime in his community. He wanted to be able to carry his gun that he got as part of his day job. He wanted to be able to carry it at night, and the gun laws did not permit him to do so. I'm thinking it's New York. And, basically the Supreme Court came down and said, listen, you should be able to defend yourself, whether, at home or at work or whatever the case may be, and kind of restricted, the ability of states to legislate when it comes to the Second Amendment to firearms. Mm-hmm. So it was interesting because, again, in my research today, I did not know that the plaintiff in this case, or the person that basically was trying to get this law changed, was a Black man. Didn't know that. Wasn't mentioned anywhere. I mean, not that it matters. It does matter. It doesn't matter. But, it was just very interesting that was not part of the discussion. So another nugget as food for thought. Because that's what I love to do. Just drop nuggets for food for thought.
Right.
I'm not telling anybody you need to go out and and buy a gun tomorrow. And I'm not saying you should,
I think we just need to be, I'm not a big political person, so you never see me online like, gun laws and things like that, but I pay attention. I pay attention to, because it affects me, it affects my family, it affects my community of gun owners. So I pay attention to what's happening, and show up where I need to show up. But that's really mainly what you can do. This the government in this country, so much power that they have, and so much it's so much slitherness that goes on, that I just rather not, honestly, just put my energy into trying to decode and try to understand how they're trying to attack us, or well, enable us in a certain kind of way, or prevent us from doing certain things. That's why I'm so grateful for you. Yeah, I'm so grateful for you and people that are out there really actively doing the work and uncovering all this, these little things that are put inside these, these, what do you call them? The things
pieces of legislation.
Yes,
that,
legislation.
Because people don't
really appreciate that, because we would never know, and we need people like you. I am a person that is not on the inside, I'm on the outside, driving people to make sure that they know, look, you need to train, you need to go ahead, and this is what you need to do, because things are happening, and we need to be up on the things that are happening that we can see and that we can feel, and you need to put yourself in position to protect yourself,
And that's the reality. Whatever you choose to do, again, think it through and make sure you understand the pros and cons and know your limits of what you're willing to do and what you're not willing to do.
Right.
I never thought I'd be at a place where I'd own a gun. It's just not, that was never, but the reality was I married a cowboy. So
me either. And, and let me just tell you, let's talk on a real quick, I want to just bring up the mental illness part. Not everyone that comes to my class walks away with the permit. Because I have to be comfortable with you, and if I'm not comfortable with you, you're going to have to go to someone else. And I actually had someone that displayed after the fact, and I had to learn from it, because they didn't display certain actions in the class, but it was after the class where the interaction started getting a little weird. And I was like, okay, I need to probably check this person out more. And I did. And sure enough, this person, and the state was going to probably catch him anyway, but what if it didn't? Right. What if, because this was around 2020, so it was haywire, Tallahassee was crazy. So they could have easily let her application slide through, and boom, someone who's not mentally is on the streets with a firearm that's talking reckless, and I wouldn't have been able to live with myself. So it's important for me to make sure that I'm catching vibes from a person early, and spending time with them in the class and asking questions. And that's why I like I love one-on-ones. I love private sessions, because private sessions allows me to get more intimate with the person, to know them, because I'm not going to just sign off my name on anyone, because I know mental illness is a real thing, especially in the Black community too. I can't say that it's not. It is, for the most part, doing mass shootings, but we have our own issues, that.
Yeah, because, there's two, they're intertwined, but they're not. You have the one-on-one violence that we all see in every community, right?
Like domestic abuse.
Exactly. You've got domestic abuse. You've just got brawls where two people just don't like each other, and, type thing, right? You've got that. But then you have something separate, which is a mass shooting where someone is going out and deliberately targeting 10.
That's a total attack on your space, on innocent people, on children. So you have to be prepared for that. You walk into Publix, you got to be prepared for that. And it's sad, but I walk into Publix, you know what? I'm already like, it's a mass shooter probably in here. So I need to be prepared for that. I take my kids out. I'm always scoping. I'm always casing places. It's like it's a way of life now, because you have to always be prepared.
And it's sad. Like this is like, why are we here? How did we get here? Like, this is not, a comfortable way of life, you know,
But it becomes a comfortable way of life. I at some point I start thinking that these people, that's what they want. They want you to live in fear.
Mhm.
So you want to live in fear. You want to live in a state to where you're aware and you're able.
and and
So
And with that, I'm going to shout out my friend Al Lewis, who said the same thing to me. I was trying to I had some, as I've mentioned before, I'd had some threats on the campaign trail, whatever. And I was like, what should I do? Whatever. And he's like, Melba, and he put the bass in his voice. He said, Melba, he's like, the Lord did not give you a spirit of fear.
right.
You be aware, you be aware of your surroundings, you look around,
Yeah.
you stay alert,
And
you
prepare.
do different things to protect yourself, but you
Yes.
do not walk in a spirit of fear, because that is not of the Lord. And I was like, oh, I just been regulated on.
Yep. Took you to church real quick.
Right.
You kill yourself. What is this? No way to live. You
Exactly.
adapt. We have to adapt. The world is changing. It's constantly changing. And you know what we do? We adapt. And I can tell you right now, people are of color. We are great at adapting.
Mm-hmm.
We are great at adapting. We are great at pushing through. We are great at strength, and that's what we have to do. We just have to adapt. And this goes for everyone, because see, these mass shooters, although it usually is attacked to hate crimes, but this goes for everyone, because you don't want to be in a position where somebody's opening up fire and you're, in a crossfire. You can't think, oh, my skin complexion is going to protect me. This is for everyone.
Bullets don't discriminate.
Right. That part, so
Mm-hmm.
they claim who they claim.
Yeah, yeah. But with that, you have got some very interesting events coming up this weekend, because Juneteenth is coming. And for those who don't know, first of all, it's our newest federal holiday, which is going to be celebrated this Monday, June 20th. But Juneteenth is actually June 19th,
Yes.
which is the anniversary of when the enslaved people in Texas learned that they were actually free, because
Right.
the slave owners over there tried to get cute and didn't tell them, because they wanted to get one more harvest out of them. Even though they had been freed years earlier, they did not, because remember, back in the day, they didn't have Twitter.
Yeah, I know.
You're waiting for somebody on horseback to come from Massachusetts to let you know in Texas that you're free.
Let me go, fool. Let me go.
Exactly. So Juneteenth is basically the celebration of the last
Yeah.
of the enslaved people being freed in America. And that's why we now commemorate it every year. So, but you're doing some very interesting events. So tell people about that.
So every year, this is my third year. I love this event, because everyone who is a part of my gunner family on my social media sites I hope they know how much love I love the diaspora. I love us. I love pouring into our spiritual selves, into our God bodies. So for me, Juneteenth and putting together these type of events is not only coming together to show, look, Black gun ownership responsibly, but it's for us to come together and to, just build and have that family environment that we have. So this is my third year doing the Juneteenth. It's a range day. And I just open up the range. I get the outdoor range, which is my home range in Homestead. And we go out and we do trainings. We have fun and we do little basic trainings that's good for the novice shooter and for new shooters. And we come out and we shoot. We have fun. We eat. We talk, and we just it's like the cookout gun edition. It's like the cookout, but gun edition. So, and it's a good look. It's a good look. You want to be able to see. I'm tired. Everyone's tired of seeing Black people, with the gangster and connecting guns with thugs and with murders and with, pain.
Mm-hmm.
And this just shows love. It shows our strength. It shows responsibility. It shows guns in a great light, in a positive light, that make people want to say, you know what? I want to pick up I want to go train. I get so many people in my inbox. Thank you, Lou. Thank you. It's because of you that I went and got my concealed carry license, and I went training. They'll show me pictures of them going to the range and shooting, and I love that. I love that. And teaching their children firearm safety or asking me questions, because I'm big on teaching my children, firearm safety and dealing with the firearms, because I may need them. Somebody might break in my house one day. Their arms might be free, So it's like, it's one of those days that it's my baby. I love it. And because it's Juneteenth makes it even more just, So that's one of the 2 events that I do. And it's going to be this Sunday from 9 a.m. to 4 in Homestead. I have the links all over the place.
And I will drop the links in the comments, so everybody who's either listening or watching,
and it's for everyone. I want people to understand that it's for everyone. Just like look, I don't forgot the damn holiday. Like July 4th is for everyone. You see everybody wearing there going, this is for everyone. I don't care if you black, white, green, come through, and shoot, have fun. I can assure you, no one is going to feel intimidated. No one is going to feel out of place. Everyone, embraces everyone, and we have a good time.
Awesome. And so with that, please tell everybody how to find you.
You can find everything is Lou Tactical. So on Instagram, it's Lou_Tactical. My website is LouTactical.com. Facebook, Lou. Everything is Lou Tactical. That's LUTACTICAL. I think I got that right. Tactical. Yes. So that's where you can find me. I'm Lou Tactical. I try to keep it the same everywhere so it's easy. So
I hear you. That's sometimes the hard part too, because you're like, oh, dang nabbit, this name is taken on this platform.
Yeah, it's too much. So, and if you see the Medusa head with guns coming out of it, that is me. So that'd be me.
Listen, Lou, thank you. Thank you for coming on Mondays with Melba.
Thank you for always having me.
And thank you for taking me on this journe and teaching me, because I learned so much from you. So I really
and you have Cowboy too, because he taught me some things too. He had me at the range being real crazy. I was like, yeah, I got this.
Listen, I may have to drop that video of him with he had the hat going with the rifle.
I think I need a hat, Melba. I think I need a hat. I'm serious. I think he had me out there really feeling like I was a cowgirl. All I was missing was the hat and the horse.
It's okay. Let's go shopping. We can make that happen.
Need Cowboy on the team.
Right.
Thank you so much, Melba.
Awesome. Thank you, Lou. And thank you to all of you for tuning in. Definitely like, comment, share, tell me what you think. You got questions, drop them in there. You want to connect with Lou, definitely do that.
Right. And if you have any questions about firearms, I'm pretty good with hitting up my DMs. Don't be flooding me and all that. But I'm not one of those people like you got to pay for my time. But no, if you have a question or 1 or 2 questions or anything, I'm always answering my DMs as long as it's something that
is appropriate.
Right.
Right. And I'm just gonna give the look.
Yeah, that one. Because Lou is love and light, but I will gather you too. So let's Gotta make sure I put that out there. Disclaimer.
Right? Exactly. So with that, thank you for everyone. Just so you'll know, this is Pride Month. So the next 2 episodes will be featuring various activists in the LGBTQ community, because we have to, again, uplift that. And I'm all about, again, making sure accurate information is out there, especially when there's a lot of negative and stupid
great job
narratives out there. So we got to make sure that truth is being told on this channel. So with that,
I think I'm gonna go throw on me a rainbow outfit then this week.
Yes, embrace the rainbow.
It'd be bright because I love it. I love bright.
Absolutely. So, all right, y'all, take good care. Thanks for tuning into Mondays with Melba, and I will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.